it's an underground economy.
Well, sure, but you know, here also there's a longer history and there's less tolerance for the right wing in San Francisco. You know?
Exactly.
I mean, you see what happened with Oscar Grant, you know, and all it was right after it happened, people weren't having it. You know, they had a vigil a couple days ago, you know, and you know, it was all over the news and whatnot. You know, obviously it was peaceful and stuff, but you know, people are paying attention. I was walking around here, there's stickers for Oscar out here too. You know, even though this is across the bay in Oakland, you know. So all these things are interrelated. You know, all these things are interrelated, and they all have an economic basis. You know, and one of the nasty little secrets of capitalism that people don't like to talk about is that, you know, the whole of capitalism rests on the backs of African and indigenous people all over the world. You know, you have an entire class from the top, tippy top, to the so-called, you know, white proletariat, and then you have this whole layer of third world workers that it rests on. And the way you can prove that is when you pull out your cell phone, what's inside it is a piece of metal. I believe it's called cobalt. But anyways, it goes into the thing, and it's part of microchip or something. Anyways, it's mined in Africa, and a lot of the folks who do that either work for free or work for less than $1 a day. You know, all over Africa, mining that shit. And then when your cell phone is done and you dump it, you know, there's companies now that will take all your cell phones, computer parts, et cetera, you know, with this toxic metal in it, and take it over to Africa. And the Chinese do this too, and dump it off the offshore in Somalia and places like that. That's the piracy. Those guys were all fishermen first. And then they kept doing that, killing the fish, et cetera, you know. And so finally...
So millions and millions of cell phones.
Cell phones and computer parts too. And there's, you know, there's that too.
And they recycle all this in Africa?
Well, a lot of it goes there, you know. I mean, here's the thing. Here, you can recycle it, but it's more expensive to do it here. Whereas you can take that same fee that you would normally receive or have to pay for and just go over someplace. It goes into a subcontractor who will ship it out to some third world place and just dump it.
Clever.
You know, they'll do stuff like that. So, you know.
I go to 3 or 4 cell phones a year myself.
Okay. Or, you know, so that's one way, because the whole of the people in the first world use cell phones, you know. So we are all part of that. It isn't a thing of like, you suck, and how dare you use a cell phone? No, we're not talking like that. What I'm saying to you is, you know, anybody who says, oh, this stuff out here in the world, that doesn't really affect me, it's just about me and my little job and whatnot. No, you're wrong. It actually does. It actually does. You know, the whole carbon futures and trading and all that stuff, you know, and how that actually works. You know, there's a whole video on YouTube. It's a cartoon.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the title of it, but it explains it really, really well. You know, and just all the little permits you can buy. And so you buy a certain permit, you can throw more fluorocarbons or more carbon in the air than you could if you didn't have this other kind of permit. And even meanwhile, the stock market would be in there, you know, speculating on that stuff, and they're making money too. So ultimately, in order for them to get paid, and for these companies that are buying these permits for this stuff to get paid, they have to produce more carbon emissions. If you have no carbon emissions, you cannot issue any permits for anybody to go ahead and throw some more up in the air. You know? So, because that's the whole point. If we make people pay more for each amount of, you know, per what is that?
Carbon emissions.
Yeah. How much they want to throw out of their factory or factories, depending on the size of the conglomerate you're working with. They want to throw X amount up into the air, and so they want to pay for this kind of permit from this country, you know, and you know, so they can either do that, or they can buy another permit to reduce, you know, put in machinery that reduces their emissions of their factory. And that's a different type of permit, which means now that there's more carbon in the air because they bought that kind of permit as opposed to a different kind. And it's just wacky. You have to watch the video, but it gets complicated because there's all the different ways they can get around the little rules they put in place. And a lot of that's not going to matter based upon how Copenhagen handled it. So, you know, that's something else that you should look at. So, as is... And again, all this stuff is related because you asked initially about the banks. The banks are all invested in that stuff. You know, and they have their offshoots with like the insurance companies, and that's the healthcare system, HMOs, and all that, you know, and then all of them have lobbyists, you know, that run between them and various congresspeople and senators and whatnot, and as well as any of the president's advisory people.
Yeah, the system going in their favor.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because the whole thing is like, you know, if you're not seated at the table, you're probably on the table about to get served. You know, and so that's kind of where it's at. You know, and so, you know, hey, a few million people hit the streets all over this country against the war, and Dick Cheney ignored it. He's like, they don't matter. He said, you know. So, because he knows that one phone call, send the military in there and just wipe everybody out if it really gets serious like that. But at the same time, the folks that are on the street demonstrating generally are not that serious, you know, because the relative privilege of living here. No, not at all. It's not even that. It's actually lifestyle, you know, because again, you know, at the end of the day, after the protest, they're going to go home and for the most part, the majority of them will have something to eat. You know,
are they part of the system?
Not so. Well, everybody's part of the system. It doesn't matter whether if you're homeless and you pay taxes on your beer. You're part of the system. There's no way around that.
Okay.
There's no way around that. It's about your relationship to it and how you deal with that relationship and what you openly admit about that relationship. Because it's abusive for everybody, you know. But again, how it's carried out, you know, it varies from person to person, and also the aspirations of said person. Because there are some who are like, well, you know, based upon the Dr. King experience and Obama, we can make it. We can make it. It's like, yeah, but at whose expense? You know, because ultimately that will be your expense. You know, as the economy worsens in particular. That's all it can do at this point. You know, because the only way they can really turn it around, you know, is if they actually tax the rich, or if they actually manage to extract some wealth from the places where they're fighting these wars of imperialist aggression. They haven't really been able to do it in Afghanistan. Not really, you know. They haven't been able to lay one. You know, maybe they've laid some pipe down. I don't know. You know, a lot of that stuff is pretty secret squirrel, especially the report I saw yesterday talking about how, you know, it's getting more commonplace for the CIA to go into a spot, arm, train, fund, whatever side, and then either A, leave and let those folks do their thing, or B, the U.S. military follows in behind, special forces, whatever, and then they do what they do.
So with all that knowledge, what kind of work can you get? I mean, you seem very educated.
What kind of work can I get? Well, I do a lot. I do a lot. I mean, you know, I teach martial arts, you know, personal training, exercise.
So you're kind of self-employed?
To a degree. I mean, you know, you know, I try to be. You know, I try to.
So you don't have to depend on someone.
Yeah, well, and even then, it's like you're still.
I have to make ends meet there.
You have to make ends meet, and ultimately, you know, like they say in Vegas, you know, when you play cards, you know, you win some, you lose some, but the house always wins by push. And in the context of the state, who's the house? You know, so. You know, a lot of that doesn't really matter because everybody's taking a hit, and I'm not anywhere where I'd want to be ideally with my career or whatever. But you know, I'm able to do stuff. What would be your
ideal job?
My ideal job? My ideal job would, you know, probably be sitting around doing stuff like this.
Well, then you're hired.
I guess so. This is just so random, you know.
Yeah, this is a nice job we have, huh?
Yeah. So why don't you tell me about your guys' website?
Okay, it's called Enzin, and mine is called TV, but let me write you my